Welcome to this week's Weekly Wind-Up. I'm David Ridgway, and with me this week my guests are Arta Heath, Solicitor. Hi.
Hello, David.
And Councillor Martyn Bolt. Thanks for coming, Martyn. Hi. The main topics this week are what is to be done with the old sports centre now that Tesco has gone. And secondly, we're going to have a discussion on refugees in Huddersfield. For years, Tesco has been planning to build a new store.
Buildings there's no point knocking it down to do. They could just make it into like for homeless people or something like that.
It should be built into a mental health centre for adults and young adults.
Pull it down, build a car park.
Should be knocked down.
I think they should do something for the community, like maybe if it's anything like a library or something like that, or do just something it's pointless having a big empty space, might as well use it for something. So it could be anything like youth centre for kids, like people who don't have anywhere to go.
The new store was to have been on the site of the old sports centre on Queensgate. After an appalling Christmas trading and some difficulties in their financial forecasting, Tesco announced huge losses in profits. This immediately put the contractual development of the old sports centre into jeopardy. We now hear that the most recent news about this fiasco is that Tesco has given the old sports centre back to Kirklees, plus a lump of money and other land which Tesco had acquired for the development. Not surprisingly, neither the council nor Tesco is willing to discuss the details of the deal, but I guess it will come out in time when we discuss the budget next year, because it'll all be there in black and white. So why they can't discuss it now, I really don't understand. In the wake of the current financial cuts, the council is endeavouring to sell off many of its assets. So it really is a bit surprising to see that it's actually gone down the track of acquiring assets. Is it likely that the building on this site will be demolished, Martyn?
I should say mostly yes. I mean, you've got to bear in mind what most people have been saying for some time, that this is well past its sell-by date. It was one of the now infamous Paulson buildings.
Oh, right.
With the problems that brought. But the question that people are saying about what can be done, obviously the building has to pay rates to Kirklees. It needs heating and lighting, and as you've just said, they've acquired a huge parcel of land. Given that Kirklees is selling off many community assets through the district, and there was rumours at one time they were going to sell off a community centre in my own ward of Mirfield, I would hardly think it's likely that they'll be hanging on to a windfall that they've just been given when they can get money from another developer now. Okay, what might the site be used for? We heard there a building for mental health patients. Obviously, the site now will go on the market, and it depends who comes up with any money. It's a great shame that it hasn't been enhanced, because one of the questions that people have said is, what's going to happen to the old Tesco?
Arta, what do you think about this?
Well, I think it is a little bit surprising, really, like what you said, that the council is selling all these community assets and, on the other hand, is allowing Tesco to get out of the deal and buy it back, basically, in a way. But on the other hand, you can see that maybe another buyer might come available and there might be some good uses for the place. And certainly I think mental health is one area where it's a lot of development happening, and there should be more developing happening. And maybe that building will be great, because right in the town centre, it's very accessible to people, so it could be used for that.
There has been a rumour that Asda have been looking for a site on the Ring Road to compete with Sainsbury's. And of course, Tesco got their site, as Martyn said earlier on the other side of town. And my understanding was that the deal for the new sports centre was all incorporating Tesco's coming out of their old site, which was to be developed for all the sorts of things which people are now talking about, but that's obviously dead in the water. The Examiner on the 10th of January stated that it had been claimed that Tesco have invested £10 million into this scheme to build a new £36 million leisure centre. Well, that's what we've got. So with the creation of a potential eyesore, which is the old leisure centre, is there a possibility, you think, that we could sort of do an asset transfer to the bowlers of Huddersfield, let them take it over and rent out the space to other sporting people?
I think that's something that would be well worth looking at. A community group could take it over, and they could be able to get grants and other money which the council can't. It is, as you say, a lamentable shame that there is no provision in Huddersfield and shortly throughout Kirklees for indoor bowling. So I would hope that that will be something that people would look at and see if they could have a community use for it.
Just going off down on a limb here, Arta, for a moment, what do you think about the potholes in Kirklees? Are they getting better or are they getting worse?
How do we get from Tesco to
they're
potholes?
Oh, there's a clink.
I come, as I said earlier, I come from a country which was, miles away from England, but I think potholes could be very comparable in both places.
Right. Now, the reason why I've asked that is that we're told that not only has Kirklees reacquired the site, but they've also got a lump of money, but we've not been told how much. Do you not think it would be responsible of those who lead this council, neither your party nor indeed mine, for them to proselytise that money to address the potholes?
I think most people would agree. There are a number of things in the council competing for funding, and everybody's service is important, but by and large most members of the community use a road at some time.
Yeah.
And they are going into a state of disrepair throughout. Sadly, roads which I oversaw being totally rebuilt when I was a cabinet member in 2006 are now falling apart.
Do you think that perhaps we ought to be building a physiotherapy centre so that when we get our bones shaken on these potholes we could actually go somewhere to get them fixed?
I think that actually, in a way, that makes more sense because taking into account that the council is cutting quite a lot of actually very, very useful services, I think, although I completely agree that the potholes are really, really bad, I think really at the moment there are so many vital services that are being cut the funding that I actually think I would be very careful if I was the council on where that money should go. I think, everywhere we go there is cuts and services that are vital to the population being cut. So I think, definitely, I know I'm a motorist myself and I'm driving and I know the roads are falling, but I think, there might be better priorities for that money.
Do you think Tesco should have been allowed to buy themselves out of this deal, Martin?
The simplistic view is no, it was a legal deal and we're now left with this eyesore, but obviously somebody's dangled 30 pieces of silver in front of someone and they've taken it.
Was that how much it was? Do you know?
I can't tell you that, it's a secret.
Okay. Not going down there. Do you think that Tesco have been irresponsible, or was it just business for this deal to happen?
For Tesco it's just business. It was financially prudent for them, and in their responsibility to their shareholders, then they've got a deal.
Well, here's the killer question then. On the basis of all of this, do you think Tesco will upgrade their current store in the town centre?
That should have been, if you or I were negotiating, that would have been part of the deal, that in order to allow you out of this very tight contract that was negotiated, we want to see that improvement. If that wasn't done, then that's irresponsible on behalf of the council leadership.
Okay. And what do you think Kirklees should do with the land? We heard a gentleman on the clip just now saying they should demolish it, level it and use it as a car park.
I don't agree with that. I mean, I think there are plenty of car parks. I think council should maybe try and get people to walk a bit more and exercise a bit more. I think, there is so many, Huddersfield is not a huge place. I think investing on public transport and getting people a little bit more mobile, it's a good thing. I don't think putting another car park, I don't think that will change the view of the town either. I don't think it will make it less than eyesore than it currently is.
And lastly, can I ask, do you think this has been beneficial to Huddersfield, this deal or this subsequent deal?
Not in the
I
short
don't
term.
think so. I mean, in a way, the deal has helped to build a new sports centre. I guess if that deal wasn't on the plans at all, who knows? We might not have even a sports centre. So I think the sports centre looks a very good service, and it looks, people who are
Provided
visiting.
the letters stay on the front of it.
Yes, well,
But it has
Already
eaten,
started falling off, haven't they?
it has eaten into a lot of car parking spaces, so there is an argument to replace the car parking spaces that have been lost, and more, perhaps, who knows.
That's always a thing with the council, which many of my residents find infuriating. The council can put in a planning application with insufficient car park. It's lost some of the car park around there. It's built a sports centre to generate more use, and there's insufficient car parking. You don't have to have such a long memory to remember that they did that with the stadium. They passed the stadium on the presumption that people will be able to park on the nearby roads. And then when they got the stadium built, they made it permit parking all around there. So
Correct.
but the car park just near the bus station, that's most of the times empty.
That takes us into a discussion about car park costs.
Okay,
And I would be inclined to agree with you that the costs are too high. But please let us know your views. We've had some views from the public already. The weekly wind-up can be contacted by email on info@kirkleeslocaltv.com, and on Twitter you can find us at Weekly Wind-up, and you can also find us on Facebook. Little bit of local news. It was very sad to read in the Examiner, on the Examiner's website on the 31st of May, that the body of an elderly lady had been found in a flat at Primrose Hill following a house fire. Fire crews from Huddersfield made the awful discovery after they had been called to a ground floor flat in the early hours of last Saturday. West Yorkshire Police are currently investigating the fire, but at this moment the fire is not being treated as suspicious. As always after such a tragedy, the Fire Authority does ask whether you are looking after your elderly neighbours and your elderly friends, checking that they are okay and that they have their fire alarms fitted and working. I've got 7 fire alarms in my house, just as a matter of passing interest. Join us after the break, when we will be discussing the current refugee situation and how people in Kirklees can help.
However large or small your business, attracting new customers requires dedication and a lot of patience. Just like fishing, but you also need the right gear. Rods, reels, lines, hooks,
sinkers, lures, tackle box, tackle bag, net, bait, gaff, gloves, clothes, pocket knife, wrench.
Or you could simply advertise with KLTV. Online, grow your business and your clientele. KLTV, your vision made reality. Should have gone to KLTV.
Welcome back to this week's Weekly Wind-Up. I'm David Ridgway, and my guests this week are Arta Heath, a solicitor, and Councillor Martyn Bolt. Hello. Before we discuss the refugee situation, we have another fascinating news story. On the 29th of May, the Examiner reported that Kirklees Council was obliged to hold a specific meeting twice. This is because it was attended by Councillor Andrew Cooper, who is leader of the Greens on the council. The meeting was to discuss changes to the council's constitution, but Councillor Cooper was not supposed to be present. After the meeting had concluded, the mistake was spotted by, of all people, a Tory. The decisions reached were therefore unconstitutional, and the meeting had to be held all over again. Actually, I rather feel that this demonstrates how distant the council procedures might have become as far as the public are concerned. Is this really exciting stuff? Is this exciting stuff?
Sorry.
Good, okay. So we'll move on to our second major topic of the week, refugees. Refugee Week, 15th to the 21st of June 2015. This is a UK-wide programme of arts, culture and educational events and activities that celebrate the contribution of refugees to the UK and promotes better understanding of why people seek sanctuary. As we all know, Huddersfield is a multicultural paradise. Well, I wouldn't say paradise as such, as there are some very questionable areas, but Huddersfield does have a good name for welcoming people from overseas who have been in trouble with their own homes and their own governments. But anyway, here at KLTV, we love to work with ethnic minorities, promoting those great things that they bring to the communities in which they live. In recent times, we have been hearing in the news how smugglers are trying to bring people out of North Africa to mainland Europe. Some are even trying to reach Great Britain. Now, is this really a bad thing? After all, Great Britain has a proud history of many people coming to this country over the centuries. The Huguenots, well, you can even go back to the Romans, I suppose. The Huguenots, the Dutch, the French, the Russians, the Jews, the Poles, the Czechs, Ukrainians, West Indians, Pakistanis, Indians, Chinese. All have been welcomed and many have settled, making our country a fascinating mix of cultures and religions, but also, I hope, teaching tolerance of each other. Arta,
Yes, David.
how do refugees affect the community of Huddersfield?
Well, refugees are a massive part of the Huddersfield community, the same way as they are quite a big part of the whole UK community now.
Yeah.
There is a difference between the refugees and asylum seekers, and when we are celebrating refugees, we are actually talking about people who genuinely have been accepted as having a fear of persecution. And those people make a massive contribution to our community. They are in fact a very, very small percentage compared to the overall migrant community, but they bring a amount of skilled workers, which actually they have to start somewhere, so they are starting on very low skilled work until their qualification has been recognized and until they have reached the level of English that they need, because not always they leave because they are not good, they leave because they've got problems, and the majority of the time those people are very highly educated, very well trained, with massive skills of being doctors, accountants, solicitors, and they are here because their life was in danger. All those skills are being put into the community. There are people who come here, and there are Syrian refugees now opening lots of takeaways, employing other people's local residents, enhancing the culture, enhancing the food culture, in making people more aware of what is going in the world, and overall, you know, making a massive contribution to Huddersfield.
Do you think more should be done to help refugees, bearing in mind that they have come from some exceptionally appalling places to try and improve their lives?
Absolutely. I mean, there is a UK is one of the most attractive places, not because there is a good welfare right system. The UK is attractive to people because it's a country where people see as fair and as free, and where people can flourish and they can basically fulfill their potential without being prejudiced about who they are and where they come from. What has happened in the recent years, all the refugees have been labelled on this negative view, with this negative impact on our society, that people have stopped caring and they are really doing a lot less for the refugee communities. Now, what is happening at the moment in Mediterranean Sea is a complete outcry, and there are organisations like Amnesty who've got a massive campaign about SOS Europe, and you know, all of that, we were, in a way, UK was part of it. We did influence those crises in the Middle East, in Africa. So we need to help. We need to be able to help people. And really, it's kind of, I think, the government sort of idea that we will just send boats so we can take people from the sea and take them to Italy, I think really is a little bit appalling, taking into account that, you know, there are so many people, and you can't really expect sort of countries like Italy and Greece to take everybody on when the rest of the Europe are all contributing to that crisis, and they should all help.
How much of this is exacerbated by political boundaries, by national boundaries?
It is. I mean, you know, for me, I think that is really the biggest of the issues, because there are, all the countries have become sort of a lot more closed, and their boundaries are, you know, people are seeing themselves as more as a sacred boundaries and more nationalistic views. And that is really creates a lot more problems, because of course the same view as we have, that we should close our borders, the same view is happening in Yemen. And when they're having people who come from Somalia and Sudan, and massive amount of numbers from other countries where there are huge wars and people being killed every day, they feel exactly the same as us. Well, we don't want you, just go. So they are pushing them away in the sea, and that's why we are in the crisis that we are today.
I do feel, I mean, I don't know if you agree with this, Martin, but I do feel that some parts of the press, the media, have actually changed our understanding of words like asylum of like sanctuary, and they've almost become dirty words in the media. Do you agree with that?
In some media, yes, and I think thankfully here in Kirklees we have a long and proud history of looking after refugees. When I was the mayor, one of the most moving things I attended, and one of the groups that we weren't mentioned in the introduction, was we took Basque children in here between 1937 and 1939.
We did.
Huddersfield is a town of sanctuary and part of the City of Sanctuary movement. And so during my mayoralty, I was very humbled to meet some of the families and children who came over in 37 to 39. And that was due to the influence at that time of the mayor of Huddersfield. So whilst some sections of the media may portray this, I think you've got to get it in context that genuine refugees, yeah, there is a great need for them and we should be extending that hand of fellowship to them.
Yeah, just going off down on a limb for a sec. We're in 2015, 100 years ago, we were in the second year of the First World War, and 100 years before that, they were fighting at Waterloo. And as I get older, these time lags become so much smaller. Of course, all that business that you were talking about with regard to the Basque children who came over and who've settled and made their lives here, that was all caused by the Spanish Revolution, the Spanish Civil War.
And just to correct, some of them, they were here from 37 to 39, ironically, they were repatriated in 1939.
Thank you very much for that, Arta. That's very interesting. And I do feel that, yes, we do have a very proud history of sanctuary and welcoming people in Huddersfield. And I do feel that everybody who subscribes to small L liberal attitudes in society today should do their best to ensure that those people who talk and speak in a language which is alien to all of us should be told and should be put right. But I must just ask, before we leave this topic, with the increase of ethnic minorities, is there a danger that we might lose sight of our own cultural identity? This is a yes no question.
Well, I don't think. I mean, the problem, I think, our cultural identity is our multicultural identity, really, that the Britain has become. So I think all the cultures will influence on that. I don't think that is the danger to ever losing that identity.
I think, again, as you say, I think if you look at it, we have been a melting pot. And the Romans didn't come really as refugees, David.
No, it was a bit the other way around, I suppose.
I mean, we've even welcomed people here from Sedberg School and things. So.
Well, at least Sedberg School was on the light side of the Pennines, not the dark side. Well, it actually was on the dark side, but there we go. Okay, so another quick news story. Feathered Friends have launched a new crime watch scheme in Huddersfield. 6 Owls helped launch OWL, which is called the Online Watch Link, a crime-fighting network aimed at local residents. People are being encouraged to watch crime like a hawk online with the help of a few feathered friends. OWL is a new crime-fighting network where people can get involved with direct mail alerts about local incidents. Is this good? Or are they flying by the seat of the pants?
I think it is. Well, I think it is kind of a bit more focused, I think I would say, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Okay.
I think it's to be judged by people.
I think the police are using technology to speak. They should also be using it to listen. There's numerous reports come up, and I know KLTV's on Twitter. The police will put things on their Twitter feed that don't report anything to us on Twitter. Well, it is a two-way communication. Yeah. And OWL, if it's going to email people out, should also be ready to receive things by any electronic medium.
Do you know whether they are?
I said the Twitter feed comes up and said, don't tell us. So.
Oh, right, okay, so they aren't. Right, okay. And finally, we must mark the sad passing of Charles Kennedy, a person who has received plaudits and praise from all quarters of the House of Commons following his death announced earlier this week. He was known not only as a man of principle, but also as a friendly, charming, supportive and witty man. Indeed, I can concur with all of that, because when I had a brief moment as prospective parliamentary candidate in Harrogate, and I have to say some considerable time before Phil Willis got involved, he did actually come at my invitation to talk to the membership. No, we didn't just fit into one police box, we actually fitted into a TARDIS, but there we are. But, and I'm going to quote this, the sort of wit that he had was this: and this was quoted in the House yesterday. Paddy Ashdown, said Charles Kennedy, is the only party leader who has been trained how to kill. Margaret Thatcher, of course, is self-taught. Thank you to my guests, Councillor Martyn Bolt, representing the Conservative Party today, Arta Heath,
Thank you,
Solicitor,
David.
who deals with refugee problems.
That's correct.
Indeed. This has been the weekly wind-up, but we do want to hear from you. We can easily be contacted by email on info@kirkleeslocaltv.com, and you can search for us on Twitter @weeklywindup, and indeed we are featured on Facebook. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
Thank you.